When I first landed in Bogota, all I could think of was the show Narcos on Netflix. I literally binged it the week before, and honestly, I expected things to be complete chaos. But after just 1 week, what I actually found was completely different. Here's what I learned after spending 1 week in Bogota. So first things first, why I even decided to go to Bogota in the first place. At the start of this year, I spent 4 months in Argentina. And honestly, it was a little bit more expensive than what I was expecting. I definitely spent a lot more money than what I was intending to. And when I was doing some research into cheaper places for this upcoming year, Colombia kept landing on my list. Bogota was also a big hub that was like the halfway point between Argentina and Canada, and had a lot of flights flying over there. So rather than doing the full 13-hour flight all at once from Buenos Aires to Toronto, I decided to spend a week in Bogota to split it up and test out the city to see what it had to offer. I wanted to see if it was as dangerous as everyone said it was, or if that was just extra hype and it wasn't actually that bad. And I thought spending a week here would be a great way to test the waters and see what it was like before I decided to actually move there and spend a few months there. So because of these few things, I decided to go to Bogota and spend the week there and get a feel for what it was like.
Get back on the road, the path that I'm on. This time is the path that I backtrack to home. Been trapped for too long, my baggage and all. But don't get me wrong, there still ain't no baggage for zones. Please do not ask me at all, bring that on your own. Paper or plastic or whole, see but won't lack on the cold. What are your own? What they asking was on. Papers burn rap full of bone, the pin or the cone. Rocket ship UFO, DMFW, the shit that I'm on. What I've been till I fall, the vision was forced. I picked up some boys, then the vision was more. The picture was pure, how your vision was more. And this ain't from before, ain't the same anymore. Swear to God I done tried to keep it 100 and everyone change on your boy. Swear to God I done tried to keep it $1 with bitches who...
Now, when it comes to my first impressions of Colombia, they're honestly a lot better than what I was expecting. For starters, I was expecting the airport to be kind of shitty. And when I landed there, it was one of the nicer airports that I've ever been in. Not only that, but when I left the airport and got in the taxi, I was impressed by the roads. Like, they were newly paved, everything was like well put together, and it just wasn't what I was expecting for Colombia. On my way to my Airbnb, there were a few areas that were a little bit rougher, but I never really felt like I was in danger going through those areas. They just looked a little bit poorer. And then the area that my Airbnb was in was definitely like a higher class, and it felt fairly safe. The first few days, I was honestly really cautious. I was concerned about getting kidnapped or mugged or any of the other things that you see happen to someone online in Latin America, and I was honestly quite concerned. Like I said earlier in this video, I had watched Narcos before going there, and that didn't really help. I was definitely expecting there to be like some gunfire when I was there and stuff like that. But honestly, after the first few days, I felt pretty safe and went back to living my normal life while keeping the same precautions that I normally keep in Latin America. My Airbnb had a cafe in the lobby, and the coffee there was delicious. So the coffee definitely lived up to its Colombian name. I was very impressed with the taste of it. Unfortunately, I didn't get to talk to too many locals when I was there just because my Spanish isn't the best and I wasn't really out exploring as much as I would have liked. I was kind of grinding away on my previous YouTube channel and just hanging out for the week. So the people that I did talk to, like the taxi drivers or the people in the cafe, were extremely nice, and I have no complaints about them. Some places you go, people are a little bit rude, but I never found that in Colombia. I found everyone to be quite pleasant to deal with. Then I didn't find them to be standoffish towards me as a tourist. Now, in terms of cost of living, I was only there for a week, so it's kind of hard to grasp how much a country costs just by being there a week. You definitely need a few months to be able to tell how much you're spending on the month to month and get a good grasp of it. Regardless though, I did notice it to be significantly cheaper than a lot of the other countries that I've been in to date, and it was also the cheapest Airbnb. I went on Airbnb and seen how much it would cost for a month to stay there. with the discount, and it was only like $1,000. So it was a few $100 cheaper than any other Airbnb that I've been in as well. That's 1,000 Canadian, so probably about $750 USD. Taxis and Ubers were also extremely cheap. They literally were next to nothing. You can literally pay a few bucks to go almost anywhere in the city. My cost from the airport was a little bit more expensive just because they could charge a little bit more. But when I got to the Airbnb and was going around everywhere, it was quite a bit cheaper. I compared pricing there and with everything to Peru, as it's got the same cost of living. I ordered a lot of food from Rappi and Pedosia when I was in Colombia, and each meal was about $8 to $15 Canadian, which is about $6 to $12 USD. I even went to a fancy restaurant, and when I say fancy, it had a glass elevator and multiple floors that you could go each with like a different restaurant. And I got a nice salmon fillet with 3 alcoholic drinks, and that cost me about $25 Canadian, which would be about $18 USD. So the same meal in Canada with that many drinks would definitely be in like the $60 to $70 range. So it's definitely significantly cheaper in Colombia.
Now, being cheap is great, but if life sucks, then it doesn't really matter. And that's why I want to talk a little about life as a nomad in Bogota. To be honest, it's a little depressing there. It rains all the time, so you don't really see the sun. And if I had to stay there a long period of time, that would definitely get to me. Being there a week wasn't too bad, but if I had to do it for any length of time, I definitely would have wanted to go somewhere else. Colombia definitely has some other options to go to, so I probably would have checked them out. That said, it does have some nice areas to explore, and it does have like a nice view. There's mountains kind of all around you, and I went for a walk one day and walked to like the bottom of the mountain before I got into like a remote area. I didn't really want to go into the trailhead alone just because I didn't know who was on that or what would happen, but I went in the civilized part and found the scenery very nice. If you're someone who's just looking to drink and party, it would be a great place, as you could do it multiple times per week and you wouldn't really have to worry about the bank account as everything is so cheap. If you're not like me and you don't really care about the sun, then you probably won't mind it raining every day. In terms of infrastructure, the Wi-Fi was incredible when I was there. I never had any issues. The buildings are good in nicer areas. They're modern condos that you wouldn't even notice any difference from North America staying in one of them. But in the poorer areas, the infrastructure is definitely lagging. That said, as a nomad, you're probably not going to be staying in them, so you don't really need to worry about it. The vibe I got from Colombia was very similar to the vibe that I got in Peru. It was wild, it was dangerous. It was even a little more wild and dangerous than what Peru was. Not that anything happened, you're just expecting it to be a little bit more that way, and that honestly could be mostly psychological. But that being said, like my doorman did have a gun in Colombia, where in Peru he didn't. So obviously there's a little more shit that goes down in Colombia that you need to be aware of. I kind of weirdly enjoy the chaos and everything, so I enjoyed it. If it was sunny every day, I would have loved Bogota. And while I was there for the week, I loved it. But again, since it rains every day, it wouldn't have been a place where I would want to stay long term. Now, you may be wondering if I would go back. And I definitely would go back, but like I said earlier, I wouldn't want to stay very long. But that said, Colombia in general, I definitely want to go back there and stay for a longer period of time. It honestly wasn't as bad as I was expecting it to be. I do know intuitively that it is more dangerous than other areas that I've been, but I never really felt like I was in too much danger. I felt pretty comfortable the whole time I was there, and aside from the first few days, I felt like I could live a normal life. So it wasn't as bad as I was expecting it. I was definitely expecting to have to Uber everywhere and not leave my Airbnb, but it definitely wasn't that way. When I do go back to Colombia, it would either be to another city like Cali or Medellin, or I can see myself more likely going to the Caribbean coast, like a place like Cartagena or Santa Marta, somewhere where there's water and a nice ocean view. I definitely think there's some gems in Colombia that you can go to, and I do want to explore them more. And with the weather actually being nice in those areas, I definitely would want to stay there for an extended period of time. I'm also getting my residency in Panama, so with them being right next to each other, I can definitely see myself going to Colombia quite a bit in the future. If you want to check out my thoughts on Panama, I actually just made a video about that as well, as I was also there for a week, so make sure to watch that video right there, and don't forget to click subscribe. I drop 2 new videos every single week and you don't want to miss them.